Hi everyone, I'm so glad that you could join me again. In today's episode, I wanted to share with you some of my very favourite books, and I want to thank everyone who suggested that I make this episode after seeing my spring cleaning video. As I mentioned before, I do plan my weekly videos about 3 months in advance, but sometimes I like to look through the comments and see what you're asking for, so thank you. Now, I am a huge fan of books, and in particular big coffee table books that are filled with beautiful pictures and illustrations. I've selected a few of my favourites, ones that I think you will love, and I thought that I would talk you through them all and chat about why each book is special to me. Also, I have an exciting announcement about my channel at the end of this episode, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, pour yourself a cup of tea, pull up a chair, and let's get started. So for tea today, I have some Friands. These are little French cakes made from ground almonds and egg whites. The good thing about them is that you can freeze them and eat them at will. The recipe is on my blog, nicholasfairford.com. So the first book that I wanted to share with you is this one, and it's called Inspirational Interiors by Roger Banks Pye. Now, Roger Banks Pye was a famous interior designer who worked for Colfax and Fowler. He sadly died in 1997, just before this book was published, which makes it even more bittersweet. But this is one of my very favourite books because I feel that it really taught me a lot about what I know about interior design. It is my interior design manual, and you may have heard me talk about this book before. I've probably mentioned it in blogs, I've definitely mentioned it in other videos, and this is a real favourite, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who wants to learn about the basics and principles of design, whether you're into classic or more contemporary interiors. This book will help everyone. So from the moment that we open up this book, we're given a glimpse into this quite magnificent interior, which, even though it dates from the 90s, is still pretty chic and relevant today. All you would have to do is maybe change out some of these fabrics and some of the colours, and this would be very, very relevant today in terms of the layout, the way the pictures are hung. The composition is very, very timeless, chic and beautiful. So this just very early on demonstrates the skill of the designer and what's to come in the book. And then when we turn onto this page, we get a little illustration, and you actually find these throughout the book. I find them really sweet and charming. Onto the contents, we get to know exactly what we're going to have in the book, and it really tells you just how much we can learn. So it starts off with the introduction, then we're talking about scale and proportion, architectural details. Then we're going into colours, so we're going through all of the colours and how they work well and for what type of rooms and what types of daylights. Then backgrounds like walls, floors and windows. Over here we have furnishings and furniture, how to group furniture, then looking at all different elements like chairs, cushions, beds, screens, lamps, fireplaces, and finally decorative details, so how to display pictures, flowers and objects. The foreword of the book is by Valentino of the famous design house, and Roger Banks Pye, who wrote this book, decorated Valentino's London house in Belgravia with this very sweet check pattern. Now, this is a great quote: "Whatever you do in your decorating philosophy, be brave. Have stark red walls if you wish, but never wish you hadn't taken your vision right to the end. Make a bold statement." Now, isn't that really true? You should always make a bold statement, do something right through to the end, don't do it half-heartedly. Now here, this is the genius of Colfax and Fowler. We've got a whole double-page spread of illustrations of window treatments and exactly how they're put together and each detail. So here it says bound plain red at the top, inner binding of the darker squares from red Eton check at the top, leading edge and metered at the base. the outer binding of the white stripe from the red collar, and the final trimming of Oxford fringe red and brown. So we really get to go inside the mind of the designer, see how their mind works and actually how this is constructed. And as you can see, it really is couture, like making a beautiful dress. It's actual skilled artisanal work. So it's very impressive. As we're looking at architectural details in this first section, this is a very useful tip. And Roger explains that this small room didn't really have any architectural features. It didn't have a fireplace to anchor the room. So what he did was he used this really large desk, which almost touches the ceiling, to add architectural interest and serve as the focal point for the room. And that is a very clever trick that you can do. And that is what I love the most about this book, is that it is filled with real practical tips that anybody can adopt. Onto this section, the course of colour, talking about colour, blue and white, which is everyone's favourite. We all love that freshness, timeless. And then we go on to my favourite colour, which is green. I love green because it reminds me of nature and I find it very easy to work with. And a quote in this book was something that stuck with me. It says, "John Fowler once told Roger, all greens go together, just look at the hedgerows." And that is so true. You only have to go outside and see that the grass is green, the trees are green, the hedgerows are green, but somehow they work together. They don't need to be carefully matching. It just works together. You don't have to worry about it. So that is why I like green. It's soothing. Now this is one of my favorite rooms in this book, because even though this was done in the 90s, absolutely every element in here is still relevant and chic today. They're very simple curtains, upholstered incredibly well in lovely colours. So yes, a room that you could live in happily today that doesn't really need to be changed. This is another skill that I learned from Colfax and Fowler, and what they do is they use a painting technique to really highlight all of the architectural details in a door by painting it in 3 shades of white. So we have this shade of white here, a much lighter shade here, and a darker shade here, and it just picks out all of these details in the door and gives it some robustness. Then we're going into backgrounds like wallpapers, fabrics, curtains. Another good tip, always scale up, not down. Everyone is terrified of making things too big. If in doubt, make it bigger, not smaller. And that is true. It's something I've talked about in my videos. I find that every time you use a bigger piece of furniture, it looks better than trying to put something small and make the room appear larger. So as you can see, this is a full interior design course in one book. Even though it was published in 1997, all of the tips and hints are still relevant today. You're going to get some great advice if you're looking to do your own interior design in your home, or you would like to pursue it as a career. This is a fantastic starting point and Bible for you to have. So this is probably the most beautiful book that I own. It is called Second Bloom, Kathy Graham's Art of the Table. And it is a book all about Kathy Graham, who lives in New York. She's an artist who makes the most beautiful dinner parties and table settings. And this is the dust jacket for the book, which is beautiful and very good quality. And it is illustrated by Kathy herself. She did all of these incredible illustrations. So even just to have this is a reason for owning this book, because it just looks so wonderful. But yes, this is a book full of table settings, beautiful invitations, all made by Kathy Graham. It is filled with gorgeous images that are just irresistible. So this is highly recommended. So from the moment that we open this book, we are greeted by this beautiful end paper design by Kathy in watercolor, muted pastel colors, and it just really shows how much of a gifted artist she is, with these cheery, beautiful illustrations that just give you the most wonderful welcome to the book. Then we have the contents page, and this book goes through each season, spring, summer, autumn and winter, and shows you Kathy's designs, table settings, flower arrangements for each season. And here is Kathy buying flowers in New York. I met Kathy about 3 years ago in London. We had tea together at Claridge's, and she's a real funny lady, very sweet and kind. So this is the title page for the first section, Spring, and again we have these exquisite watercolors which just make me feel so happy. Wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to be so gifted like this and be able to draw these wonderful things? So beautiful. Kathy in her studio, doing what she does best. We have here, nothing is so beautiful as spring, when weeds in wheels shoot long and lovely and lush. Gerard Manley Hopkins. I love this double page photograph of Kathy's studio. These pencils in pots really inspired me, and even though I'm not very good at drawing, I would definitely love to have a desk with all of these gorgeous colours in, just to bring a beautiful mood to your home and brighten things up. And we have all of her illustrations here on the wall with some flowers. It's just the happiest, most beautiful place to be. So throughout the book we get to see inside Kathy's really amazing world. Look at this table setting in New York. This divine arrangement, and then all of the glassware, china, cutlery, linens, heaven, everything that makes me happy. And then as we go into summer, we get to visit Kathy's house on Nantucket, which is this insanely beautiful shingled house with the Georgian windows and shutters, and then we've got this beautiful rose bush here framing that window. It just looks like heaven. Flowers in a basket. First thing in the morning I prune roses, cut flowers and condition them. So in here as well, Kathy gives a lot of useful tips for flower arranging. There is a section here about how to condition your flowers. As I've mentioned on quite a few occasions, I do really like to collect auction catalogues. This one, The Estate of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, is probably my most prized possession because I'm a huge fan of Jackie, and this auction catalogue, which is pretty huge, is just so simple and chic. It reminds me of an old wedding album. It's just pure white with the grey words on. Pure Jackie, simple, chic, beautiful. And even though this isn't a book necessarily, it is for me because it is something that has taught me a lot about design and interiors. I look through it all the time and find it immensely useful. It's filled with all of the possessions that Jackie owned, and you can see some beautiful artworks, furniture, objects. It just really tells the story of a life without telling you anything at all, so that's why I enjoy this. So you probably would struggle to find this one, but I've seen a few on eBay and on auction websites. If you can get a copy, I would highly recommend it. This auction catalogue of The Estate of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, which occurred on April the 23rd to 26th, 1996, is probably one of the favourite things that I own, in that it's just so simply beautiful and it's kind of like a history book and the epitome of a moment in time where you see the life of an incredible woman who had great taste and did wonderful things for the world, and just how she lived. And one of the things that I always think when I'm looking through auction catalogues is it makes me a little bit sad that you collect these items throughout your life and they have lots of meaning, and then when you leave this world, you leave them behind and then they become kind of the end of them. So the beautiful thing about auctions is that you can take these items, make them your own, and give them a new story and a new history. Jackie was someone who was a deeply private person, so to get this glimpse into her life is very special and very rare. And she really did have the most wonderful taste, so elegant and chic. One of the things that I've read a lot about Jackie is that she had this New York apartment for many years, and she also had other homes. But what she did was she decided on fabrics, upholstery, furnishings, and she never changed them throughout the course of her life. She just refreshed them or had them remade again in the same fabrics, wall coverings, etc. And that really shows somebody who knows their own style and taste and doesn't need to keep changing and swapping, which is really amazing. So there are many beautiful, beautiful objects in this catalogue, but for me the special thing is being able to see inside the interiors, how they were. So I will find a picture here, so you can see into the living room a little bit here. And Jackie was very fond of French furnishings. Like me, I love French furniture. You can just see the timeless sophistication. Somebody who was very educated, knew her own style, was not into trends. Now we're looking at some of Jackie's jewellery, and the funny thing about this is this pearl necklace is one of the things that she was most famous for. And these were not even real pearls, they are simulated pearls. So that is quite funny, and I think these sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars at the auction. Again, looking at another interior, you can see that she has a very definitive style of classical timeless elegance. The library, with this gorgeous wall covering. Look at this necklace from Van Cleef & Arpels. I'll read this to you. The pendant designed as a large palmette set with a heart-shaped cabochon ruby within a border of round diamonds, further decorated with cabochon emeralds and a single cabochon sapphire at the top, supported on a necklace designed as a floral medallion, set with rubies, emeralds and sapphires, within borders of round diamonds and with ruby beads, flanked by gold and diamond caps. The total diamond weight approximately 47 carats. The heart-shaped ruby in the pendant, weighing 56 carats, mounted in 18-carat gold, signed Van Cleef & Arpels. And this was a wedding gift from Aristotle Onassis in 1968, and the estimate was at $75,000 to $100,000. And Jackie famously kept this in her safe and had a replica made, and the guy who made the replica said, okay, I'll make a replica, but I would like to be able to sell it. And Jackie said that she saw the necklace on Dallas one day, and that's when she knew she would never wear it again. So that's quite funny. And then we also have this insane diamond by Harry Winston, which was another engagement present of $500,000 to $600,000. Pretty spectacular. But I always think that auction catalogues are a really great way to learn about taste and style. You can look at every single object that is in a home and really think about if it's something you would want. And you can learn about all these objects, pictures, objects, jewellery, chinaware. It's all in here. You can study each element. They always offer detailed descriptions of each item, so you can kind of use this as a dictionary of style and taste. Now, Vere Grenny is one of my very favourite interior designers. He's had an amazing career. He's one of the most famous interior designers in the world, and this book, which is relatively new, it was published about 2 years ago, has become a real favourite of mine because you get to see just a Bible of taste and style that is probably unparalleled at the minute, I think. So this is my favourite for that reason. It's filled with inspiration, and it really shows that classic can be contemporary, cool and chic, and it doesn't have to be rooted in tradition. So this is a very good book for people who like more contemporary design but who want a classic twist on it. So I'd highly recommend that one too. Viagrini, A Point of View. I love this book because it's got this pink room on the cover, and I'm a huge fan of pink, as you will know from my bedroom decorating video. Here is Vere, handsome, black and white. And again, this beautiful room, which is called the Temple. And this is in England, and it's one of the most beautiful houses in the UK, in my opinion. We have the foreword by Hamish Bowles. And this is such a special book because it is a memoir as well as a decorating book. We learn about Vere's past and how he got into the design world, which is always fascinating, especially as a young person. It's always interesting to me to see how people made their lives and how they made their careers and became successful. We can really learn a lot from that. But I love this book, filled with such incredible pictures. Look at this beautiful vignette. So again, about the Temple. The Temple is a pavilion in Suffolk, and it was owned by David Hicks, the famous designer. And Vere now owns the house, and he has made it his own. Beautiful, chic, contemporary, but still classic. Then he talks about other people's rooms and how he was inspired by them and how they helped develop his taste. And as I always talk about, I always like to really delve into the work of other designers, other artists, just to gain inspiration. You can really learn a lot from so many other people. And then part 2, how I decorate. So this is talking about his work, how he decorates, and the signatures that make up his style. This is one of my favourite rooms of his, this exquisitely chic, calmful, green palette of a room with this chintzy fabric and then these very simple curtains with this edging here, which is just so elegant. And then we are just walked through room by room. So we've got bedrooms, entertaining rooms, bathrooms. Now this is a very famous wallpaper by Colfax and Fowler called Bowood. Everybody loves that on Instagram. And it is very chic and timeless. So you can really see just from the bits that I've shown how Vere is the master of very contemporary but also very classic. So we can go from, let's find something, this to this. And that is the master of his genius. Beautiful. So if you want a book that you can just flick through to get lots of inspiration and just look at some beautiful pictures, this is one, but also for the incredibly interesting story of someone who's been successful in life, how they worked their way through, navigated the world and became successful. So it's very, very useful in many ways. The last book that I want to show you is a very small one. It is called In and Out of the Garden by Sarah Midder, and this is probably the most favourite book that I have out of every book that I own, including coffee table books, fiction and non-fiction, because it is just so beautiful and pretty, and I never ever stop looking through it. This was published in 1982, so it's over 35 years old. But you would never know just from looking at the cover. It is really timeless, elegant, beautiful, and just the most divine book that I think you would ever see. It has lots of illustrations, well, all of it is illustrations, beautiful watercolors by Sarah Midder, and it's just a book about the garden, so poems, anecdotes, even some recipes. It is a beautiful little book, and I think you would absolutely love this one. And here it is, this very cute book. You can see we have this darling illustration on the cover here, and as we open up the book, even underneath some books, when you take off the dust jacket, they can be plain and ugly. This one has this gorgeous illustration in a square, and the end papers are beautifully illustrated, and the quality of the paper is so thick. I'm not sure whether you can hear that, but it's lovely thick paper. Gorgeous. And this book is just such a pleasure because it's small, as you can see. It's filled with these illustrations, but it's kind of like a pocketbook, and you can just literally dip into this book whenever you're feeling low or you need a bit of pick-me-up, and you'll find something that will inspire you and make you feel happy. So yeah, you can literally open any page like this one here. So this is a great example. This is all about green peas with cream, so it's a little recipe. Take a quart of fine green peas, put them into a stew pan with a piece of butter as big as an egg, and rolled in a little flour. Season them with a little salt and nutmeg, a bit of sugar as big as a nutmeg, a little bundle of sweet herbs, some parsley chopped fine, a quarter of a pint of boiling water. Cover them close and let them stew very softly for half an hour. Pour in a quarter of a pint of good cream, give it one boil, and then turn them into a dish and send to the table. Heaven. So this book has inspired me so much. My teaware collection and my home fragrance collection that's coming soon have been inspired by the garden and nature, and this book has been my go-to just to think about what I really want and how I'm going to present that. So it's been a very useful thing. Just darling little illustrations. So yes, even though this book is very pretty, do not take it at face value. It is also hugely informative and useful. You'll learn a lot about the garden, vegetables. I mean, look at this. This is kind of like an encyclopedia of every vegetable that you would find in a vegetable garden. We have leeks, radishes, cabbages, and there is a little illustration to go by each one, and it tells you where they're grown, the history, and the best way to keep them now. So interesting. I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode and it's been useful in terms of books that you may want to add to your collection. Now, I want to let you know about a new feature that I've decided to add to this channel. In the last few months, I've been reading through the comments here, and I noticed that quite a few people have asked if I can do more than one video per week. So I already do this weekly video every Friday, and to be totally honest, it takes up a big chunk of the week as I film and edit everything myself. However, I always aim to please, and so I've decided that I will now do 2 episodes a week, my usual Friday episode and now an episode on Wednesday afternoon called Tea Time Treat. This will be a short video from me to help get us through the midweek slump and lift spirits. The plan is to share something lovely, like a poem that I've enjoyed, a book I can't put down, a piece of music I think you would love, a housekeeping tip that will change your life, basically a 2 to 5 minute segment to help break up the week. So yes, I'm really excited about starting this, and the first one will be next Wednesday, May the 5th. If you have a suggestion for something you'd like to hear about in my Tea Time Treats, let me know in the comments and I'll have a look through. In the meantime, have a really great weekend and a wonderful week ahead. I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye bye.